Richie, no!
I don't think he has the guts to shoot anyone. Cool.
Richard and Regina Rich, the wealthiest couple in Chicago, welcomed their first and only son, Richie Rich, into the world. Weighing 7 pounds and 6 ounces at birth, Richie quickly earns the title of the wealthiest baby in the world. A few years later, Richie grows up under the care of the family's loyal butler, Herbert Cadbury, with his beloved dog Dollar as his constant playmate. Although his incredibly wealthy parents provide him with every luxury imaginable and make sure he never lacks anything money can buy, Richie still feels lonely. Deep inside, he senses that something important is missing from his life. One day, because Richard is too busy to attend, Richie joins Cadbury at the reopening ceremony of the local United Tool factory. While there, he notices Gloria, the daughter of union representative Diane, playing sandlot baseball with her friends. After the ceremony ends, Richie excitedly watches Gloria and her friends playing baseball and wants to join them. Before he even gets the chance to introduce himself or ask if he can play, Cadbury reminds him that it's time to leave. With no choice, Richie returns home by helicopter without ever getting the chance to play with the other kids. From the outside, everyone believes Richie has the perfect life and needs nothing more. But for Richie, this moment makes him realize that some of the most valuable things in life simply can't be bought with money. As soon as Richie arrives home, Dollar happily runs over to greet his best friend. The Rich family estate even features a gigantic mountainside monument called Mount Richmore, carved with portraits of the family. Hidden inside the mountain is a massive vault where they safely store their priceless treasures. Richie tells his parents about the children he met at the factory and asks if he can invite them over so they can play together. His mother immediately agrees to make his wish come true. In return, since he can't refuse his mother's request, Richie reluctantly spends time studying chemistry under the guidance of Professor Keenbean. One of Professor Keenbean's greatest inventions is the subatomic molecular reorganizer, a machine that breaks useless garbage down into its basic molecular components and rearranges them into useful household items, such as bedpans or bowling balls. Another invention is an incredibly powerful adhesive called cementia, which is said to be 10 times stickier than the strongest glues in the world. He also develops a special spray that makes any fabric resistant to dirt, stains, water, and even extreme damage. The professor jokes that if he ever perfects the invention, dry cleaning businesses might find themselves with far less work to do. Another impressive invention is a remote-controlled robotic bee, which takes years to develop and costs millions of dollars to build. While Richie is testing the robotic bee, he briefly loses track of it. Just then, Cadbury arrives with lunch, mistakes it for a real insect, and accidentally swats it, destroying the expensive invention. Knowing the professor won't be happy, Richie quickly slips away before he gets blamed for the accident. Lawrence Van Doe is the greedy chief financial officer of Rich Industries. Although the Rich family doesn't like his attitude, they don't believe in firing employees without good reason, so they continue keeping him on the team. Richie isn't fond of Van Doe either, so during a family dinner, he deliberately chose a seat far away from him. Richie's mother insists that he eat his protein-rich calf's liver, but Richie secretly feeds half of it to Dollar when she isn't looking. During dinner, Van Doe argues against purchasing United Tool, claiming it's a waste of money. Instead, he suggests shutting factories down and buying bankrupt companies for profit. However, Richard and Regina reject his proposal. Rather than closing the factory, they decide to modernize it and continue supporting its workers. Just then, Professor Keenbean arrives with another invention called the Smell Master, a device capable of identifying scents with incredible accuracy. Richard hands the device to Richie and asks him to test it. Richie first scans a glass of wine. The Smell Master instantly identifies not only that it's wine, but also the exact variety. Next, Richie scans Dollar. To everyone's surprise, the device detects the calf's liver hidden inside the dog's stomach, exposing Richie's little secret and earning him a scolding from his mother. Before leaving after dinner, Van Doe mentions hearing that the family has purchased a new Monet painting. He recommends strengthening the mansion's security system to protect such valuable artwork. The rich family calmly assures him that all of their priceless possessions are already safely secured inside the family's private vault, so there's nothing to worry about. While other children wake up early and work hard, Richie stays comfortably in bed, ignoring his alarm clock. Only after Cadbury comes in to wake him up does Richie reluctantly get out of bed, still feeling too lazy to exercise. However, when he learns that his regular personal trainer can't make it, and that an attractive young woman will be filling in instead, his attitude changes instantly. Richie jumps out of bed without hesitation and eagerly heads off to begin his workout with Cadbury. After finishing his exercise, Richie looks into the mirror and notices that a pimple has appeared on his face. He then uses a device called Dad Link, which allows him to locate and contact his father anywhere in the world. Richard is currently at the White House meeting with the president. Richie calls him to ask what he should do about the pimple on his face. Since Richard is busy discussing important matters, he tells Richie that they'll deal with it once he gets home. After saying goodbye, he ends the call.
At school, Richie's teacher asks the class an interesting question. If a company is about to go bankrupt, how would you save it? Instead of paying attention, the students spend their time doing whatever they want. Some read newspapers, some play miniature golf, and others even have their clothes tailored during class. Richie also isn't focused on the lesson. He draws a funny cartoon of the teacher and sends it to one of his classmates through the classroom fax machine. His friend bursts into laughter as soon as he sees it. After class ends, it's time for fencing practice. Richie invites his classmates, Reynolds and Ellsworth, to spend the weekend at his mansion and hang out together. However, both of them politely decline, saying they already have other plans. A moment later, Reginald secretly taps Ellsworth from behind with his fencing sword and jokingly says, "Watch your rear, Ellsworth. First rule of defense." While Reginald is distracted, preparing to drink his coffee, Richie quietly gets even for his friend. He lightly taps Reginald from behind with his own sword and says with a grin, "First rule of defense, Reg, always watch your rear." The surprise causes Reginald to spill coffee all over his uniform. Embarrassed, he quietly walks off to get cleaned up without saying another word. Later that day, Richie has no one to play with, so he and Cadbury drive into town to visit Gloria and her friends while they're playing sandlot baseball. Richie introduces himself and asks if he can join the game. At first, the kids tease him, saying he probably couldn't even hit a beach ball, and they refuse to let him play. Eventually, Gloria changes her mind and suggests a challenge. Everyone puts up $10 each, and Richie gets his chance. On his first swing, he completely misses the ball, and everyone laughs. On his second try, he connects perfectly and sends the ball flying. Unfortunately, it crashes straight through a nearby house window. Richie hopes this will help him become friends with the group, but Gloria gently explains that their lives are very different and believes a friendship probably wouldn't work. She collects the prize money from the game and tells everyone it's time to head home. Richie doesn't even take the money he wins. Instead, he leaves it behind and quietly returns home.
The following day, Richard and Regina prepare to fly to England to attend the Queen's birthday celebration. However, Richie's mother notices that he seems unusually unhappy. Worried about him, she decides it's best to let him stay home with Cadbury instead of bringing him on the trip. After Head of Security, Mr. Ferguson, completes the final inspection of the aircraft and all the gifts are loaded on board, the private jet takes off for England. Back at the mansion, Cadbury notices how lonely Richie feels. Smiling, he tells Richie he has a surprise waiting outside. When Richie steps outside, he's amazed to see Diane, Gloria, and all of Gloria's friends standing there. Cadbury has secretly invited them over, so Richie can finally spend the day with kids his own age. The group enjoys a huge breakfast prepared by Cadbury, and everyone is amazed to discover that Richie's mansion even has its own private McDonald's restaurant. After breakfast, Richie introduces everyone to one of his favorite attractions called the Kiddie Pult. It's a giant catapult ride that launches people high into the air before they land safely on a massive air cushion. Next, the kids hop onto ATV quad bikes and race across the enormous lawn while playing a giant game of tag. Meanwhile, Cadbury and Diane are walking through the gardens together, chatting peacefully. Suddenly, several ATVs race toward them. As they both try to dodge the bikes, they accidentally end up in an awkward embrace that makes them look like a couple. While Richie and his new friends are enjoying the mansion's roller coaster, Richard and Regina are flying toward England when they suddenly feel hungry. Richard takes out the Smell Master and uses it to locate some chocolate hidden among the many gift packages on board. During the scan, the device unexpectedly detects a suspicious package containing a hidden time bomb. They quickly finds the package and throws it out of the airplane before it can go off. Moments later, the device explodes in midair. The powerful shockwave damages the aircraft's tail, causing the plane to lose control and crash into the ocean. Back at the mansion, Gloria and her friends finish an unforgettable day of fun and prepare to head home. Before they leave, discover that Cadbury originally convinced everyone to come by telling them they would each receive $100. But Gloria and her friends smile and refuse to accept any money. They explain that spending the day with Richie and having so much fun together is worth far more than the payment they were promised, and they happily head home.
Not long after his friends leave, Richie receives heartbreaking news. His parents' plane has crashed on its way to England, and they are now missing. He immediately uses Dadlink to track his father's location, but the device can no longer find a signal. Fortunately, Richard and Regina are still alive. They survive the crash and drift across the ocean on a small life raft, hoping to be rescued. The people responsible for planting the hidden explosive among the gifts on the plane are none other than Mr. Van Doe and the company's head of security, Mr. Ferguson. With Richie family gone, Van Doe quickly takes control of Rich Industries. One of his first decisions is to shut down United Tool and lay off all of its employees. Richie learns about the situation after Gloria calls him. She tells him that the factory has been closed and that every worker, including her mother Diane, has lost their jobs. Richie promises Gloria that he will personally take control of the company and do everything he can to reopen the factory. He tells her not to lose hope. Soon afterward, Richie and Cadbury head to Rich Industries to confront Van Doe. Richie announces that he believes his parents are still alive and that until they return, he will serve as the company's CEO. Although Richie is still underage, he remains the sole heir and controls 51% of the company's voting shares. With Cadbury acting as his legal guardian, Van Doe has no choice but to accept Richie's authority and allow United Tool to continue operating. Most of the company's shareholders also support Richie, leaving Van Doe unable to run the business however he wants. From that moment on, Van Doe begins secretly carrying out his own scheme to gain complete control of the company. Not long afterward, the police search Cadbury's room and discover bomb components and electronic devices that appear to be connected to the attack. Believing he is responsible, they arrest him and send him to prison. With Cadbury out of the way, Van Doe appoints himself as Richie's new legal guardian and takes over the company as its senior executive. He dismisses anyone who opposes him and replaces them with people loyal to his leadership. Richie is treated almost like a prisoner inside his own mansion. His movements are restricted, and security cameras monitor him everywhere he goes. Meanwhile, Van Doe and Ferguson secretly discuss making sure Cadbury never leaves prison. Unnoticed by them, Professor Keenbean overhears their entire conversation. The professor quietly informs Richie about what he has learned, and together they come up with a plan to rescue Cadbury. Following the professor's idea, Richie secretly delivers a tube disguised as ordinary toothpaste to Cadbury. Hidden inside is a powerful corrosive solution, along with a letter written in Latin explaining the situation. After reading the message, Cadbury realizes that his life is in danger. He successfully defends himself during the attempted attack and escapes unharmed. Then he uses the hidden solution to dissolve the prison bars and makes his escape. Before long, Cadbury reunites with Richie, who has been waiting for him outside. Soon afterward, they read a newspaper report announcing that the wreckage of the Rich family's plane has been found. Even so, Richie refuses to give up hope. Since neither his parents nor their life raft has been recovered, he firmly believes they are still alive. He and Cadbury decide to keep searching for a way to contact them.
At the same time, Van Doe and Ferguson capture Professor Keenbean. They threaten him and demand to know the location of the rich family's secret vault, where their priceless treasures are stored. The professor refuses to reveal its location. Instead, he explains that the vault can only be unlocked using the voices of both Mr. and Mrs. Rich. Meanwhile, Richie and Cadbury take shelter at Diane's house. Using Gloria's computer, they reconnect to the DadLink system and continue searching tirelessly for their parents. Out on the ocean, Richard and Regina are incredibly lucky. They recover a suitcase floating nearby, which contains useful supplies. With those materials, Richard manages to repair the damaged DadLink device. Richie finally reconnects with his parents through DadLink and learns that they are still alive. However, before he can obtain their exact coordinates, Ferguson detects the signal and cuts off the connection. Using the location data they managed to capture from DadLink, Ferguson and Van Doe quickly track down Richard and Regina, capture them, and take them into custody. Unaware that they're walking straight into a trap, Richie and his friends secretly sneak back into the rich mansion. Their first priority is rescuing Professor Keenbean, who has been tied up and held captive. After freeing him, Richie asks the professor to create a distraction so that he and Cadbury can reach his bedroom, where the DadLink device is located. As Professor Keenbean activates his incredible sensational bubble fountain outside the mansion, the security guards become completely fascinated by the spectacular bubble display. While everyone's attention is elsewhere, Richie's friends quietly disable the mansion's security cameras. Taking advantage of the distraction, Richie and Cadbury rush toward the DadLink room, but when they finally arrive, they discover that it's already too late. Richard and Regina are already there, and both of them have been captured by Van Doe. Van Doe immediately orders his guards to bring Gloria and the rest of Richie's friends inside as well, making sure no one escapes.
Richard and Regina ask him why he has gone this far. This time, Van Doe no longer bothers hiding his true intentions. He openly admits that his only goal is to take control of the rich family vault. He warns them that if they don't want anyone to get hurt, they should hand over the vault without resisting. Following Van Doe's orders, Ferguson and the other henchmen capture Cadbury, Richie, and all of the children before locking them inside a steel cage.
However, several of the henchmen accidentally stepped into Professor Keenbean's powerful adhesive called cementia, leaving them completely stuck and unable to move. After hearing the guards' warnings, Ferguson notices the sticky adhesive spread across the floor and carefully avoids it. He also realizes that Professor Keenbean is hiding nearby.
Ferguson threatens to harm the children if the professor doesn't reveal himself. To force him out, he activates powerful electrical currents around the cage, making the situation even more dangerous. Thinking quickly, Professor Keenbean pours some cementia onto a handkerchief and throws it onto Ferguson's face, temporarily covering his eyes and preventing him from seeing. Unfortunately, the professor loses his balance, accidentally steps into his own adhesive, and becomes trapped as well. Even so, he still manages to save everyone by using his remote-controlled robotic bee, which successfully unlocks the cage and frees Cadbury, Richie, and the children. Richie quickly gathers several of Professor Keenbean's inventions and races off to rescue his parents. Meanwhile, Van Doe and one of his henchmen force Richard and Regina deep inside Mount Richmore. As Richard and Regina sing together, the vault's voice-activated security system recognizes their voices, causing the massive vault door to slowly open. Once inside, Van Doe's excitement immediately turns into frustration. Instead of finding mountains of cash, he discovers something completely different. The rich family keeps most of their fortune invested in banks and the stock market. Inside the vault are only the priceless family treasures, precious memories, and priceless heirlooms that mean far more to them than money ever could. Enraged by the discovery, Van Doe orders his henchmen to make sure Richard and Regina never stand in his way again. At that exact moment, Richie arrives holding a sword. Van Doe immediately tries to stop him with his weapon, but Professor Keenbean's special protective spray has made Richie's clothes nearly impossible to damage. No matter what Van Doe does, he can't hurt Richie. The rich family joins forces and successfully overpower Van Doe and his henchmen before quickly escaping from the vault. They try to close the vault door behind them, but they're too late. Van Doe manages to slip through before it seals shut. The Rich family then climbs through Richard's giant statue inside Mount Richmore, making their way out through the statue's left ear before jumping onto the left eyeglass frame to continue their escape. Just then, Ferguson returns and begins firing the powerful laser sculpture machine at the mountain, trying to stop them. The statue's left eyeglass frame breaks loose and crashes downward. Fortunately, the Rich family safely lands near the statue's mouth instead of falling with it. Cadbury refuses to let Ferguson continue causing trouble. He quickly defeats him before turning the laser toward Van Doe, who is desperately trying to climb down the mountain with a rope. The laser cuts the rope around Van Doe's legs, leaving him hanging upside down before he tumbles through the statue's forehead and lands near the Rich family at the mouth of the mountain. Terrified, Van Doe begs for forgiveness. He apologizes for everything he has done and desperately asks them to save him.
Mr. Van Doe, you're fired.
Richard calmly replies that the Rich family never like firing employees. However, Van Doe has earned himself a very rare exception. After saying those words, they each land a punch, leaving Van Doe unconscious. A few days later, Cadbury organizes a baseball game in the Rich Manor yard and personally serves as the team's coach. Finally, Richie gets the chance to play alongside his new friends as part of the United Tool team. When the final pitch comes his way, he confidently connects with the ball and helps his team earn a well-deserved victory. Meanwhile, Cadbury and Diane share a warm kiss, confirming that they have officially become a couple. As for Van Doe and Ferguson, they lose their executive positions, but are allowed to remain on the estate as gardeners. In the end, Richard and Regina couldn't be happier. Their son has finally found something that money can never buy: true friends. And because of that, Richie truly becomes the richest boy in the world.